The views, information, or opinions expressed during the Seeds of Wellbeing series are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the University of Hawaii College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources, or funders, and any affiliated organizations involved in this project. Welcome to a Seeds of Wellbeing Voices from the Field podcast featuring voices of Hawaii agriculture producers for Hawaii agriculture producers. These podcasts are made possible by a grant from the University of Hawaii College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources, also known as CTAHR, and the Seeds of Wellbeing, or SOW project, and is supported by a grant from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, National Institute of Food and Agriculture, and the Hawaii Department of Agriculture. In this episode, we speak with Lawaia Naihe, Director of Hoʻākeolapono Trades Academy and Institute based out of Anahola, Kauai on Department of Hawaiian Homelands. Hoʻākeolapono mission is to provide the Hawaiian community with cutting-edge vocational training across high-demand trades with a special focus on problem-solving and lifelong learning. The nonprofit is geared toward career technical secondary students and has already partnered with several public schools to deliver its program. The nonprofit was designed to increase employment and advancement opportunities by providing students with crucial building and construction knowledge and multidisciplinary 21st century trade skills. So welcome to the Seeds of Wellbeing podcast. And today I am wonderfully graced by the presence of Lawaia Naihe.
Yeah.
Did I say that correctly? I apologize if I didn't. So I'd like to go ahead and ask Lawaia, could you share a little bit? Which organization are you with and how is it related to agriculture?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me on. I started a organization, Hoʻākeolapono Trades Academy and Institute. We are we teach all the building and construction trades. Mm-hmm. We're connected with agriculture because we're also working on starting a mahi'ai division of our program, where we can get some farming and getting students ready for a career in farming if that's what they wanted to do, as well as building and construction.
And how long have you been doing this?
I started the nonprofit in November. Started the nonprofit in November, yes, and I started our program in August. August 1st was our first day
of last year.
Yes,
wow, you're very new then. So what prompted you and compelled you to create this nonprofit?
After so many years of being first a DOE teacher and then being an administrator in our public school system, it was tough. I don't know if anybody, you work for the state of Hawaii, but working for the state, we had a lot of, or as far as the DOE, we had a lot of restrictions and you really couldn't do things. So I kind of just said, okay, I'm going to step away from my career and start my own little program. Took a leap of faith and it's kind of paying off.
All right. So what area in agriculture do you think your program would make the most impact in what parts of agriculture?
Well, first thing is we're located on Hawaiian Homelands. So Hawaiian Homelands, as you know, we used to have like a lot of sugarcane, pineapple, and things like that. So just like all the other Hawaiian homelands and most of our agricultural land, it's just kind of dead. They come, the plantation, they came and sprayed a lot of chemicals, sprayed a lot of fertilizers and, rat poisons and things like that, arsenic. So our soil is that way. Our soil is dead. So we need to revive our soil as well. So we decided to take on the task of remediating we have 400 acres of Hawaiian homeland here that is just dead land. We took on the task to try and remediate that soil so that we could bring community farming and turn it into a household norm. So that's how we're getting into with agriculture. We're looking at different crops as far as sun hemp, different types of legumes, regular hemp to help us take take the toxicities out of the soil and revitalize our soil with nitrogen, working with different organizations and trying to get IMOs, indigenous microorganisms, back into our system. And it's a long process, tough process, but a high need process and service that we need to do for our community.
So which organizations are you collaborating with to help you? They're helping you do this.
Right now, I'm working with Kauai Farm Planning and a couple of individuals. We're working with Iwi Kua on the west side of Kauai. We are also working with Hemp Solutions Kauai.
Okay.
And one of our big organizations is the organization is Aina Alliance. They got the land down in Anahola. They got the RFP, 30-day revocable permit to kind of caretake the land. And we're using this as a prototype, kind of like a catalyst, trying to start something up. And we can go to other communities and say, look at what we've done here. We have an amazing opportunity because of the autonomy and the ability to be innovative. We're on Hawaiian Homelands. I'm Hawaiian myself, and I am a beneficiary of Hawaiian Homelands. And, we got Hawaiian Homelands all over the state. So if we can do some type of system here, we can go to other places and say, hey, this is what we're doing. Now you guys can attempt it, you guys can try it, you guys can do something else, but this is what we're doing here. We're trying to make an entire community, ahupua'a style community, and bring it back into a norm.
So if I'm understanding correctly, if what you're doing is sort of like a prototype to try to address one of the key stressors in what we found out in our need assessment is this access to land.
Yes.
For the farmers.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Exactly. We're working on that. Obviously, we're building our high school. So we're building a standalone trades and building and construction high school that encompasses all of these other techniques.
So you're addressing another stressor is the difficulty of finding skilled labor.
Yes.
Skilled labor for Hawaii and consistently. Yeah. So how can you provide a little bit more details about your trade academy to build a skilled labor force?
Yeah. I also am a carpenter, and I had a little renovation, just a little business on the side. As a teacher, we don't make a lot of money. So on our summer breaks and our weekends and our spring breaks, and we gotta do what we gotta do to survive, especially the cost of living here in Hawaii. I've always found that it's very difficult to find labor that is, know what they're doing. And I think that's just across the board. The kids that are coming out of high school, they're just not prepared to enter the workforce, which makes sense because our schooling system is geared to send students to college. So, we got to play around with those games. So if we can create something where our students can learn it while they're in high school, not all students are going to go to college. So we want to give them a safe place that they can learn these skills, these trades and careers. And if they feel the need while at the same time offering dual credits through our community colleges, and if they feel the need, that, hey, man, maybe I can go to college if I'm focusing on these CTE programs, or even if I want to be a general contractor or construction manager.
Mm-hmm.
You can just, hey, I can do it. You can go to college. And if not, no problem. You can go to work, and we can help you get into a good job,
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we started. One of the big complaints that I hear from not only contractors, but the CTE programs is guys come in and they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. And then it deters the student.
Mm.
If you're on a job site and you got this new kid that doesn't know what he's doing, all the older guys or the guys that know what they're doing, they kind of go through a hazing phase where this kid just goes and picks up rubbish, picks up trash, go around, pick up trash until you're worth something, and then after that, you got to come over here. Then you get to learn the cool skills and you get to do this. But until you can do all of this other stuff. And then so that deters the students. They don't want to be there. They don't want to be there that long. They're like, oh, well, I don't want to pick up trash. How long am I going to do this? And, again, understandably, those jobs need to be done. But just trying to give the kids and these young adults the head up to move on and do something better.
So you did mention you're a teacher, but I'm also assuming you're also a farmer.
Well, not necessarily. I'm not a farmer. I grew up farming kalo in Hanalei.
Uh-huh.
But I wouldn't consider myself a farmer. No, I do want to. I see the need with the farmers. There's a high need for that, and there's a high dependency on imported food. I see the need that we got to change that. So I'm not a farmer, but I got friends that are farmers.
Yeah.
And then I expect. And from conversations that I had with these farmers, is that it's hard for them to get labor as well.
Yeah.
So if we have a place where where we can corral the students that are looking for these types of career choices, then everybody in our ahupua, everyone in our community, everyone on our island can benefit from something like that. Even if these students, let's say we don't have a farming program, every farm needs something to be built.
Yes.
So, you're going to have to build barns, you're going to have to build storage, you're going to have to build this, you're going to have to build that, you're going to have to plumb your irrigation. You're going to, so when people say, oh, well, farming and this is different, it's like the product is different. Mm-hmm. But everybody needs to build infrastructure. Everybody needs to build capacity. Everybody needs to be able to grow. And without being able to build, you're going to have to pay for that. Right. You're going to have to pay somebody to come in and build that. Or you could build it yourself. Mm-hmm. They're both stresses. They're both stressors. So what kind of stress do you want to have? If we can teach students to farm and build things, then they can be innovative. That's where the innovation comes. It comes from learning how to do the skill. Once you learn how to do the skill, that's when, I know how I can make this faster. I can make this cheaper. I can do this. All of the innovation comes after you learn the skill. Yeah. So we teach the students the skill. We teach the students the innovative mindset, the entrepreneurial mindset to, hey, how can we make our community better? Mm-hmm. And we teach them in our program, we teach them community first. Mm-hmm. And then, what I have found in the short time that we've been doing this is that the students really, really take on to community style learning, place-based learning, project-based learning, hands-on learning. They really take on to those things. We do things as a program where the kupunas, they call us up and say, hey, my window is broken, or my door is broken, or my bathroom needs to be bigger because my mom just got into a wheelchair. And then we're like, okay, guys, let's go. So we go over there, fix some window, fix a door, add an ADA ramp. We've done decks, we've done remodel for a bathroom. you know, to allow kupuna to be able to roll in and out with and be able to roll right into their shower. So and the kids love that. And you know what they get paid? They get paid lunch from grandma.
Oh.
And they love that even more.
Yeah.
So you know, it's a blessing to see that.
So I think what you're touching upon is a really important point about versatility, and that allows for creative problem solving. Because as a farmer, ag producer, you're constantly doing this problem solving, and like you're saying, the more skills you have under your belt, the more confidence you have to be able to navigate through stressors or challenges, whatever they may be.
Absolutely.
So can you give us an example of what a week is like if somebody joins your program?
A week. We start our mornings, you know, we'll start off with a day. We start our mornings off with a briefing, safety briefing, stretches. We go over our, you know, lesson plan for the day. Our interns, you know, then go to work or whatever we're working on. They get their regular breaks. And yeah, it's like a regular work day, except we're a lot more educational as opposed to a lot more laborious.
So it's very hands-on. So there's not a curriculum or modules or something
we do have a curriculum. You know, we follow standards, and we do have but what separates us is if I have a student for 8 hours or 6 hours, this is 6 hours in a day, and it only takes 3 hours a week to meet the hours that this student would need for a credit, 1 credit. So if I have a student for 6 hours in a day, I can teach 2 credits. Yeah. And so our classes can be, that brings a lot of innovation. Our classes can be 2 hours of work in the morning and 4 hours of hands-on work. And some days it's the whole 6 hours is hands-on work, because we've done the front loading, maybe Monday and Tuesday, we've done the classwork, you know, stuff. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is pretty much all just getting these things done, you know, and in between, we make sure that we are giving critical feedback at the time, in real-time feedback, like, okay, you know, now let's set these nails in. One perfect example was we were doing siding, and siding, you're going to have to putty all your nails in after. So what our guys did was they put up all the siding, and then they had to come back and set all the nails. And you know, that was a good learning experience for them. Is okay, now what is faster? If you put your one piece of siding up, you shoot your nails and then set your nails and then move on to the next, or is it faster to do all your siding and then come back and set your nails in? And then they're like, well, you know, we could have just done it at the same time. I was like, exactly. That would have been much faster and efficient, and that would have actually helped you think ahead. So we encourage students to go out and try to do these things, and we encourage these little micro failures, I think we call them, because then that's when the real learning happens, is when, you know, you make a mistake, or you weigh the 2 options. You know, as educators, we like to reflect, right? What could have done, could we have done better? What worked well? What are we doing in the future? So when they get that reflection, that's when they think, oh, wait, oh yeah, that would have been much faster for us and less tedious. So that's just one example of, you know, offering real feedback at the time as opposed to something later.
That's great. And how many of your students so far have the interest in also going to farming and doing ag production or ranching?
Well, my interns, we have high school students, and we have interns, students that have already graduated high school, and they're on scholarships through various other organizations. We have 4 of them right now, and of them, all 4 of them like farming. They like farming. They like all of that. So, yeah, it's the need is high right now as far as in our system. They're in the program to learn building and construction, but as we're going, we're building our high school at the same time, and we're building our farm areas. A part of our curriculum will be having to manage these farm areas for the high school. And I think it's kind of just showing them, here's all of your options. Here's all of the techniques and skills you're going to need to run these options. What do you want to do? Our hope is that everybody becomes a farmer in their own yard, in their own homes. That's our hope. Our hope is that, you can utilize this building and construction to make your money. Then you can go home and you can farm in your own backyard. Not only that, but you can take whatever you farm, you can feed your family, and potentially bring some of your produce to sell at a farmer's market or as bulk. So one of our students actually has his own poultry business. So he sells, I think he said he sells 8 dozen eggs a week. And he's 18 years old.
Yeah.
He's 18 years old. He's been doing this already, So for him, we've done a couple of chicken coops, trying to teach him how to make chicken brooders, chicken coops, how to maximize our off-grid systems, like harnessing solar power, wind generation, things like that. And, I think the next step for him is working on the entrepreneurship of it.
Yeah.
Because right now he's selling eggs to, one auntie, one auntie always come buy eggs from him and farm fresh eggs. And so I'm like, okay, well, how do we step that up to our next game?
So what are some of the challenges that you see you're foreseeing to really roll this out, and the sustainability of what you're trying to do here?
One thing I'm seeing here, being on Hawaiian Homelands, is that all of the water has been diverted. A lot of the water has been diverted. Our reservoirs have been decommissioned. So we have a lack of water. Our soil is just trash. Our soil is trash. So those are the two main issues we face. Water sucks and our soil sucks. So how do we get that back? What are some innovative techniques that we can use that can help mitigate some of those issues? And
so what are some of the solutions that
some of the solutions are, these Korean style methods of farming. One thing we're trying to develop is a program that we can actually house up at our reservoirs, so that we can utilize these man-made reservoirs. The issue with those is they need 24/7 maintenance. So they need pretty much people to be there all the time. Nice, sweetie. Sorry about that. And funding. It's hard to get money, and it's hard to find people for a lot of these farmers, and a lot of this, it costs a lot of money, and trying to find the resources to come in and build it is a lot. So we decided, well, why don't we just train our students to do it, because they're going to do it anyway. Why don't we just train them to do it, and then they can, again, our hope is that they will come up with more and more innovative ideas, concepts, and put them into work.
I think that's really interesting, because farming is such a resource intensive in many different ways. Your time,
Absolutely.
Your labor, your supply, physical, manual, material resources as well. So you're sort of, what you're trying to do, if I understand correctly, is encourage a mindset and develop these skills where, given limited resources, how can you potentially make it work, or be creative and addressing some of these?
Absolutely. And I think one thing about farming is that I think everybody gets away from is, Everybody right now is treating farming as mine and yours. You know, I mean, it's the truth. But if there was a more community style farming system, then I think we could, you know, resource share and labor share, right? When it's time to, we all come and it's time to harvest product. We all can come over there and help you harvest this product, right? Because we're all in this together. So yeah, going back to mindset and community mindset, we want to change the mentality from mine to ours.
And so it sounds like it's like some folks who are, let's say, devil advocates would say, you're trying to go back to the past. We're moving forward to the future. And the future is all about technology and big data. So what you're trying to do is getting people to do back home gardening and home farming? Or
well, no, I mean, what's the difference? You know, what's the difference between having an aquaponic system in your backyard? Yeah, there's no difference. You can have an aquaponic system maximizing, you know, the 21st century technology. You can have the lights, you can purchase the lights that can help give artificial sunlight. You know, there's no difference. It's just we're encouraging people to go and figure out what works best for you. One thing that we've done a horrible job of is we've done a horrible job mixing our culture with technology. We've done a horrible, it's either you're going to be cultural or you're going to go 21st century. It's not a blend. And we need to change that mindset as well. It's not about just these. Yes, I believe we need to be innovative and we definitely need to take on the past cultural experiences and successes, because we were successful, very successful. For someone to tell me that Hawaiians would not have evolved or been innovative, I kind of just shake my head and said, no, absolutely not. I believe 100% that my people would have been innovative and they would have kept up with modern, you know, technology. We were the first state to have electricity in our palace. You cannot tell me that's not innovative. You know, we had electricity before the White House. You know, and then we came to Hawaii because of innovation. You know, we jumped on canoes, we followed the stars, we came and we cultivated islands throughout our way here, stopping at these various points and then moving here. So when I hear those things, I kind of just shake my head and say, oh, well, then we need something better than that. It's not you're going to do that or you're going to do this. It needs to be together.
So that's also an issue with, let's say, the small farmers with the big ag. So yes. How do we have big ag and small ag work together? Because it seems, again, that dichotomy of you and, you know, me, this separation.
Well, you know, I mean, on Kauai, it's what trust. I think that's established. There needs to be trust. People don't trust big ag because of the past, you know, and small farmers, they just feel like they can't compete with big ag. I think if everyone went to the community style farming, you know, these small farms now become big farms. You know, if everybody works together, these small farms become big farms. Opening up the dialogue with how are we going to help each other? You know, if it's you versus us, then that's fine too. But I would prefer it not to be that way. You know, it starts with a bunch of conversations. The first few are going to be very hurtful to a lot of people's feelings, and it's going to be very emotional. But once we get over those emotional conversations, then we can have like, okay, what are the next actual Ho'oponopono steps that we can take to move forward? And you know, lay out everyone's intentions. Some people want to make money. Some people want to help communities grow. So, you know, obviously everybody needs to survive. So currency is really big, but that's a good question. You know, how do we all get to the table and say, look, this is what we're doing. this is what works. This is what doesn't work. This is what we're doing. This is what works and what doesn't work. How can we all work together? And obviously, you bring in that community mindset, a lot of things can change.
So is there anyone who's sort of spearheading or trying to have these open dialogue that is willing to be in the trenches and work through these challenging, difficult conversation that needs to be had? Because everybody's talking about them, but it's...
yeah, definitely. One thing that we don't have here is kind of, we're seeing big ag kind of like leave. We have Monsanto, all the seed companies out on the west side. We don't have much farmers here, big as far as big ag farmers here in Kauai that I know of. And I'm not very big in the farm game right now, but I would love to have those conversations because I'm not a farmer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming in, I don't have a bias, I just want people to work together.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have it. To me, it doesn't matter what you grow. To me, it doesn't matter, all those other things people fight about. Those things don't matter to me. I just want them all to work.
You want harmony and everybody to come together.
I just want them to work. That's it. I don't want it to not work or something be broken and then blame somebody else. Yeah. Everybody's pointing fingers. I was like, okay, well,
yeah.
I'll be the first to say, it's my responsibility to work on our students to cultivate something better, which is why I quit my job to start something like this. It is my responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I went to college to learn how to do these things. And I became an administrator and a teacher and an educator because I wanted to, I set that as the responsibility. Mm-hmm. Nobody else told me that I'm going to do this. I set that as myself, as my responsibility. And I expect that. I expect people, if that is your profession, to do what professionals are supposed to do. And again, I felt like I needed to step away. Mm-hmm. And some people just need to be leaders.
So in your academy, are you providing the conditions and context for the students, whoever's involved, to rediscover their kuleana, their responsibility then?
We definitely work on that, by teaching. We got cultural practitioners coming in and, okay, sweetie, give me 1 second. We have cultural practitioners that come in and they teach these practices. We have open communication with our students and our interns. We try and change the mentality. Again, it's our 7th month of operation. We feel like we're doing a really good job so far, but we constantly got to grow. We've had our ups and downs. We've constantly got to be innovative. We've constantly, the teachers got to get coaching too. Teachers have to improve. We cannot just stay stagnant with the things we teach. We have to be able to improve. Yes, we start small and we add things more and more. One thing we offer is just trying to change the mentality is we offer financial training and teaching. Our interns, they have opportunities to start their own investment accounts. We open and encourage them to have checking and savings account, teaching them how to manage their budgets, personal budgets. If you can manage your personal budget, you can manage a business budget, So that's how we try to shift the mindset. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, it is. You're getting at the heart about intentions and values. Work is not just like something that I do to make a living and having an income, but it's more than that. It's, if I'm understanding correctly, it's like your work is actually your life and it's integrated.
It's funny. Before your name used to be Shoemaker. Your last name is Shoemaker, right? Because you made shoes. That was your life. Your whole entire life, your grandfather did, your great grandfather did. It was passed on generation to generationally. So we gotten away from that. People, obviously times change, careers change, but I think I think our bodies and our DNA want to be doing those things that are helpful and that we've kind of been doing, you know.
Yeah. So, this project of ours is focused on, well, not just focus on, but it's also trying to understand and raise awareness about stress and well-being
Mhm.
for our ag community. What would be a solution or some ideas that you could offer to increase stress, decrease stress, and increase well-being for our
Well,
community?
the number one stressor when talking to people, and that could be biased because of the program I have, but the number one stressor I have when talking to people is they just don't have enough people to help, or they don't have enough labor. They don't have enough people that want to get into this. So a lot of the farmers feel like they're just going to, it's a dying breed.
Mhm. Because of this access to skilled, consistent labor.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's tough. Being a farmer is tough.
Yeah.
It's very difficult when you can add 21st century technology to things, and it's much easier. I wouldn't say easier. It's much cleaner and less back intensive when you have a hydroponic system and let's say you're raising or you're growing lettuce and heads of lettuce, and they're on raised tables. You don't have to bend over to pick them up. Right? You got the water flowing through, you got closed loop systems that can, ebb and flow through your system. It's not, and you don't have to go into the dirt, you don't have to get dirty, so that's the one stressor I've been. And again, I am a workforce development program. So maybe that's why, I'm getting all the guys that want more labor, that want more trained professionals coming out, instead of trying to just, who is going to do this? If we have a circle at, like our school, if we have a pot that we identify students as, okay, these guys are either going to go into the CTE field in college and they want to take the college route, they're only going to go for a certificate or an associate's or something like that.
Yeah.
And if we have building and construction workers, right? Or farmers, but we have a place that guys can come in and say, hey, we're looking for farmers. Well, come over here and come give a presentation to our students. To see who's interested. And if we get a good, which I'm sure we will, we'll get a big turnout of guys that want to farm. We have a big turnout of guys that want to just do building and construction. We got guys that do the hybrid of the two. I think that's
and girls too.
Oh yeah, and girls, yeah. And we do have all female programs as well. So
okay.
Yeah. So that's the biggest stressor I feel, and I see it when I'm talking to farmers. But then again, I am a career readiness program, right? So when they talk to me, it's like the agenda's already planned out, So we talk some about land, but all the farmers I talk to, they have land. We talk a little bit about water, but the guys I talk to, they already have their water situation figured out. They just need help. They just need help being able to harvest. One of the farmers that I talked to is he has these big he has Gerber. Actually, Gerber is a taro farmer on the Big Island. Gerber wants to purchase 1,000 pounds of taro from him a week.
A week? Wow.
Of poi.
Yeah.
1,000 pounds of poi a week, and he can only produce now 600 to 700 pounds. He said, if I was to add another 300 pounds, there's two of them, for me and him to be able to do, we cannot do it. And I said, okay. And, that's losing out on a lot of funding, a lot of money, a lot of resources. But also it's hard. Who wants to be a taro farmer to get all dirty, unless you teach them. unless you make it a lifestyle. Like, you know, this is what we're going to do today, guys. We're all going to get to the taro patch and we're going to get dirty, or we're all going to go to the hydroponic system and we're going to, you know, work with some of those systems, you know.
Yeah.
So I think the more exposure there is, the better it'll be all around.
All right. But it feels like you are filling a niche that is very much needed, and the skilled labor force and workforce development. So is there anything else you would like to share as we wrap up this our discussion and talk story?
You know, that's about it. You know, I think the biggest issue that we need to do, if there is anything that needs to be fixed, is the mentality, you know, the community mentality. Hawaii was very thriving when people work together. And I think people in general are just better when everyone works together.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing that I'm really focused on trying to change with our young men and women, are those mentalities. Like, it's not you versus the world.
Yeah.
We all live on this island. It's an island. So there's no way we cannot, what you do directly affects me here. So we need to make sure what you do is pono, what I do is pono. And if anybody needs help, we work together. That's the one thing that I stress with our curriculum, with our program, with our teaching. It's the individual gets you nowhere. And that's something that I credit to football. Playing football let me know that you could be the best player in the world.
Yeah.
On a junk team, you guys will not win. You will be successful as an individual, but your team will not have success. Right. And I view our community, I view my team as a football team. You know, everybody has their roles, right, and everybody needs to do them as good as they possibly can. And we strive for that excellence. Now, whether it's achievable, you know, but if we strive for that, that's what we get. You get what you put in.
So on that note, I'm going to end our talk story. We want to thank our guests for their generosity and mana'o. We also want to thank all our ag producers throughout the islands, and especially those we have heard on the podcast, for discussing ways they address the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual dimensions of Hawaii ag production. Each story, each voice contributes to a broader understanding of what it takes to survive and thrive as we feed our communities. Wherever you may find yourself within our island agriculture economies, if you would like to share your story in our podcast, please contact us. Thank you for listening to the Seeds of Wellbeing Voices from the Field podcast, featuring their perspectives of ag producers throughout the Hawaii Islands. If you have found it helpful, please follow, like, and share this episode with others. And if you have any ideas about how we can make it better, please let us know in the comments or use the link on our website. Mahalo for tuning in. The intention of these podcast series is to create a safe space for respectful and inclusive dialogue with people from across a broad and diverse spectrum involved in growing and making accessible the food we share together. A diversity of voices, perspectives, and experiences can serve to deepen mutual understanding, to spark creative problem solving, and provide insight into the complexities of our agricultural system. If you, our listeners, have experiences with Hawaii agriculture ecosystem, from indigenous methods, permaculture, smallholder farmers, to large, including multinational agricultural industrial companies, and everywhere in between, and you would like to share your story, please contact us. We welcome your voices and perspectives. So I heard through the coconut wires that you guys won an award or something. Can you share a little bit about what that award was all about?
Oh yeah, so we entered a competition through Chaminade. It's the Hogan Entrepreneur Program, sponsored by American Savings Bank. We got first place for project and our design and our plan. What that tells us is that, we don't just have an idea, we have a plan. That one, we feel like other professionals in the business and nonprofit worlds felt like this is something that we could get done through our school, by building our own school, and then by being able to help not only building and construction, but farmers get labor, farmers get support, whether it's somebody calling up and, hey, we need some help. Can you help us? We got a community thing coming up, and like, of course we can help. Of course we can help. That's what we're here for. We're here to help serve the needs. So yeah.
So if anyone wants more information about your program, where should we look?
We are on our website will be launching next month. We do have an Instagram, Hoʻākeolapono. And that's what we got so far. We're like I said, we're really new. We're a startup, and more things to come. And just we're learning them as we go. So right now we're on Instagram, Hoʻākeolapono, and our website should be dropping next month, within the next week or so.
Well, congratulations. Very well deserved.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.